Welcome to Lifehouse Community Church. You're listening to a talk from one of our Sunday services. To find out more and connect with us, head to lifehousecommunitychurch.co.uk.
Oh man, thank you ever so much. As Stephanie says, I'm Andy. It's good to be with you. I was in Banbury last weekend, but back here in Bicester this weekend. We're doing a series, Holy God, Holy People. And when Chris kicked the series off, he explained what the word holy means. It's kind of, in the Hebrew, it's a sense of being set apart. It's also got roots in Anglo-Saxon about kind of being whole and being healthy. And so it's kind of being set apart for God from impurity, and the result is something pure and healthy. We're going to be carrying on in Exodus. We've got spare Bibles. If anybody's kind of come without their phone or doesn't have a Bible, we've got a few Bibles there. Stephanie's going to grab one, I think, for herself as well as hand one out. And actually, if you've got a paper Bible this week, you win. I'm just going to tell you that because I'm going to be looking at two passages a lot. Exodus 19 and 20, which is right at the beginning, kind of second book in the Bible, and also Romans chapter 12. So if you've got a paper Bible, you can like put a finger in each of those and flip between the two really easily. Everybody like me who's going to have one of these electronic things is going to be searching backwards and forwards. So just giving you options. It's funny that Stephanie said, it's not just because I'm getting old. I do sometimes do, if I'm leading a meeting in a home group or something like that, I'll do worship from YouTube, play a worship song from YouTube. And because I've never paid to use YouTube, at the end of the YouTube song, I get an advert. And it's always like a bit of an insight into what YouTube thinks of you, what advert it chooses to show you. It's a bit of a risk letting it go to the advert. And the advert I've been getting consistently past few times in community is like Tai Chi for the over 50s. It obviously realizes I'm old. But next is stair lifts for the Tai Chi. It knows I'm old, but it also knows I'm trying to stay fit and healthy. So obviously, the thing I'm going to be most interested in is Tai Chi for the over 50s. And a healthy lifestyle is a good thing, but God is concerned with something much, much deeper than just a healthy lifestyle, and that's why we're doing a series on Holy God, Holy People. This week, my title is Holy God, Faithful People. And I'm going to be looking at Exodus 19 and 20. I'm going to be reading a big chunk, but basically going to be reading the whole of Exodus 19 and 20 as we go through this. So I'm just going to start off reading from the beginning of Exodus chapter 19. I'm just going to read a whole chapter. On the first day of the third month, after the Israelites left Egypt, on that very day, they came to the desert of Sinai. After they set out from Rephidim, they entered the desert of Sinai, and Israel camped there in the desert in front of the mountain. Then Moses went up to God, and the Lord called to him from the mountain and said, "This is what you are to say to the descendants of Jacob, and what you are to tell the people. You yourselves have seen what I did to Egypt, how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now, if you obey me fully and keep my covenant, then out of all the nations you will be my treasured possession. Although the whole earth is mine, you will be for me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words you are to speak to the Israelites." So Moses went back and summoned the elders of the people and set before them all the words the Lord had commanded him to speak. The people all responded together, "We will do everything the Lord has said." So Moses brought their answer back to the Lord. The Lord said to Moses, "I'm going to come to you in a dense cloud, so that the people will hear me speaking with you and will always put their trust in you." Then Moses told the Lord what the people had said. And the Lord said to Moses, "Go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow. Make them wash their clothes and be ready by the third day, because on that day the Lord will come down on Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people. Put limits for the people around the mountain and tell them, be careful that you do not approach the mountain or touch the foot of it. Whoever touches the mountain is to be put to death. They're to be stoned or shot with arrows. Not a hand is to be laid on them. No person or animal should be permitted to live. Only when the ram's horn sounds a long blast may they approach the mountain. After Moses had gone down the mountain to the people, he consecrated them. They washed their clothes. Then he said to the people, prepare yourselves for the third day. Abstain from sexual relations. On the morning of the third day, there was thunder and lightning with a thick cloud over the mountain and a very loud trumpet blast. Everyone in the camp trembled. Then Moses led the people out of the camp to meet with God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. Mount Sinai was covered with smoke because the Lord descended on it in fire. The smoke billowed up from it like smoke from a furnace, and the whole mountain trembled violently. As the sound of the trumpet grew louder and louder, Moses spoke, and the voice of God answered him. The Lord descended to the top of Mount Sinai and called Moses to the top of the mountain. So Moses went up, and the Lord said to him, go down, warn the people, so they do not force their way through to see the Lord, and many of them perish. Even the priests who approach the Lord must consecrate themselves, or the Lord will break out against them. Moses said to the Lord, the people cannot come up Mount Sinai, because you yourself warned us, put limits around the mountain, and set it apart as holy. The Lord replied, go down and bring Aaron up with you, but the priests and the people mustn't force their way through to come up to the Lord, or he will break out against them. So Moses went down to the people and told them. To us, to me, when I read this, it sounds a bit like a volcano. And it's almost easy to read that into the text and think, oh, this is clearly a volcano. I did some research. It's over 100,000 years since there's been a volcanic eruption in Israel. Egypt, where they've come from, hasn't had a volcano for about 600 million years. The people of Exodus and the writer of Exodus will have never seen a volcano. Sometimes it's fun to say, in the ancient Hebrew, the word for such and such a thing is this. I cannot tell you the ancient Hebrew word for volcano. Anybody guess why? There is no ancient Hebrew word for volcano. That's right, because you don't need a word for something you have never seen or even heard of. This is not a description of a volcano. If you're thinking volcano, you're not yet thinking big enough. This is thunder and lightning and thick cloud and terrifying loud noise and shaking and fire and smoke, and from within it all the voice of God and a warning. God is here, and he is white hot, and nature itself is barely able to hold it together in his presence. Why has God chosen to come down on a burning mountain? Adam and Eve walked in a garden with God. Abraham talked to the angel of the Lord when God said Sarah was going to have a baby. When God first talks to Moses, it's in a bush that is on fire but doesn't burn up. Elijah hears God in a gentle whisper. The Son of God comes as a baby in a dirty feeding trough. God can be gentle. He is not coming gentle today. He is coming big. This is a whole mountain on fire and shaking, and there's a loud trumpet blast. I really wanted, at this point, an air horn. I even put into the Bista and Banbury sharing group, does anybody have an air horn? Jackie promised that she'd stand in for me, but I'm not going to hold her to it. It's like a big blast of noise. BAM! God has something he wants the people to understand, and he wants to say it loud and clear. You see, the Israelites, back in the day of Abraham and those guys, they had household gods. I don't know, little idols that you could carry around. In Egypt, there was Pharaoh, a man pretending to be God. In Canaan, where they're going, there's Asherah and Baal, gods of fertility and war. These gods are empty and worthless and offer false hope. These are gods with small g. But this is Yahweh. This is the Lord in capital letters. Bam! This is different. He is the one true God, the maker of the heavens and the earth, who created the stars, who set the earth on its foundations, who places nations wherever he wants and judges them whenever he decides it's time, who splits seas and drowns armies, sets mountains on fire, can bring water from a rock, bread from heaven, and he's going to deliver them into the land that he promised. He is the one true, real, living, good, and powerful God. Just like we need to upgrade our thinking from a volcano to whatever this was. The Israelites, they needed to upgrade their thinking about what it meant to be the people of God. God is different to the gods they've known. He's bigger, he's truer, he's kinder, and he's holier. Did I say what this section was called? This section is that God is different to the gods they've known. In some ways, our world and their world isn't that different. Our world has got this bit of a mix going on. No God or any God or a mixture of gods. It's all the same. Me and Nikki were in Bista Garden Centre on Friday. I like it at Bista Garden Centre. Yeah, it's nice. I like it because it's got nice coffees. I like it because it's got very nice cakes. And I like it, and the plants are nice as well. We bought a little plant. But as we were going towards the exit, there was a little book. I didn't stop. It barely registered, but it did register in my thinking. I thought about it yesterday. The title was How to Manifest with Crystals. I don't even know what that means. I don't even want to know what that means. But it's just a sign of this mix that we've got going on. Now, I believe in being respectful and humble and forgiving. These are all godly qualities. But they're not the same as being muddled. When Paul writes to Timothy, he says in 1 Timothy 2, there is one God and one mediator between God and mankind, the man Christ Jesus, who gave himself as a ransom. We don't want to be conformed to the world, squeezed into the mold of the world. Which brings me to Romans chapter 12. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. God is different to the gods they've known. Secondly, God's ways are different to the ways they've known. I'm going to carry on in Exodus chapter 20. And God spoke all these words. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the parents to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them. But he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male or female servant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. When the people saw the thunder and lightning and heard the trumpet and saw the mountain in smoke, they trembled with fear. They stayed at a distance and said to Moses, speak to us yourself and we'll listen, but do not let God speak to us or we'll die. Moses said to the people, do not be afraid. God's come to test you, so that the fear of God will be with you to keep you from sinning. The people remained at a distance while Moses approached the thick darkness where God was. God's ways are different to the ways they've known. They've lived 400 years under the rules of Pharaoh as slaves under a master who can change the rules whenever he wants. Come settle in our land. Thanks for saving us from famine. Oh, now you're our slaves. Make bricks. Okay, now make bricks without straw. Call off this plague and you can leave. Oh, I've changed my mind again. It's actually not just Pharaoh who changes the rules. Did you know that in our country we get 2,000 laws per year? That's on average 1 every 3 hours, which means that on average since midnight there's already been 3 new laws and we're about to get a 4th. So I hope you're paying attention. You know, who knows what law you're about to break? That's a bit of a joke. But what the world considers is right and wrong is literally changing all the time. Everywhere around them, the only real rule is that might makes right. That's their experience. They're living in a world of tyrants and warlords where the strong make the rules and the weak are powerless. That's their world. That's what's going to happen to them wherever they go. And in that world, God gives them his way of doing things. God's ways are different. They're rooted in the fact that God is holy and faithful and steadfast. And so he wants his people to be holy and faithful and steadfast. God believes in justice and fairness and defending the weak. So God gives his people rules about justice and fairness and defending the weak. It's a different way of being. Sometimes when we're reading the Bible, we can even miss the bits of it which are in there about defending others. So, for example, if you hear a sermon on Sabbath, you may hear a lot about how I need rest, and therefore that should be my motivation. And I do need rest, and that is a good motivation. But actually, when you read Exodus 20, God isn't only concerned about me having a rest. He's concerned about my children having a rest, the people who work for me having a rest, the animals that I own having a rest. I don't own any animals, but if I did. The foreigner in my country having a rest. We actually try and apply this. I do my best. We get our shopping delivered. We do our best to get our shopping delivered on a Saturday, not a Sunday. If I'm ordering something from Amazon, I'll try and time the delivery so it doesn't arrive on a Sunday. I'm not saying you have to do this. I'm just saying this is how I read Exodus 20, that I want to honor the Sabbath by not me just having a rest, but by other people having a rest as much as I can make it, because it's a Sabbath. It's supposed to be a Sabbath for everybody, because it's something God's built into creation and the order of the world, and not just something for me. But the bigger point is this: our faith isn't just about us and God. Our faith it makes a difference to the world around us. Jesus says in Matthew 22, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and prophets hang on these two commandments. This is holiness. It's not just me and God. I'm going to have to be careful what I say in this bit, because I know I'm being recorded, and I don't want to stop the recording, and I don't want to not say this. I'm just going to be careful how I say it. I have a friend who's a Christian, and he had the opportunity to work for a company. And when I say I had a friend, I actually mean I have a friend. I'm not telling a story about myself, genuinely. But he had ethical misgivings about his company. They weren't doing anything illegal, but what they were doing was harming people, not helping people. And so, having prayed about it, he decided this wasn't the opportunity for him. And then he got to kind of second guessing himself. Oh, did I make the right decision? Because they're not doing anything illegal, are they? And I was able to encourage him, saying, our faith gives us a different perspective. It's not just about what's legal and illegal. It's about doing others good and not harm. And we've got this confidence that when we say no to something that's not good, God's got something better for us. I always genuinely have this faith. I can say no to something not, because God's bigger. He's watching. He knows. If God's got something better than that. Coming back to Romans 12, it says, then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good and pleasing and perfect will. That's testing not by breaking, but by examining closely. God's ways are different. They're good. They're pleasing. They're perfect. They're the best. God's ways are different to the ways they've known. Last one. God's sacrifices are different to the sacrifices they've known. Just going to finish off Exodus 20. Then the Lord said to Moses, tell the Israelites this. You have seen for yourselves what I have spoken to you from heaven. Do not make any gods to be alongside me. Do not make for yourselves gods of silver or gods of gold. Make an altar of earth for me, and sacrifice on it your burnt offerings and fellowship offerings, your sheep and goats and your cattle. Wherever I cause my name to be honored, I will come to you and bless you. If you make an altar of stones for me, do not build it with dressed stones, for you will defile it if you use a tool on it. And do not go up to my altar on steps, or your private parts may be exposed. I've got to say that bit. A little practical tip at the end. We did baptism prep a few weeks ago with Tom and Esther and Alice, and we did lots of theological discussions about the meaning of baptisms. And then at the end I said, and don't wear a white t-shirt. So just a little practical tip at the end. In the pagan world, sacrifices were transactional. You want a good crop? Sacrifice, and you get something. Want a victory in a battle? You sacrifice and you get something. Want power? Sacrifice and you get something. It's a transaction. Money in the vending machine, something pops out at the bottom. But God's sacrifices aren't transactional. They're restorative. God says, I'm the one, in verse 24, I'm the one who causes my name to be honored. I'm the one who chooses to come and bless. God's sacrifices aren't to get something. They're to restore people. David writes in Psalm 51, you don't delight in sacrifice, so I bring it. You don't take pleasure in burnt offerings. My sacrifice, O God, is a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart. You, God, will not despise. See, God sets out sacrifices in the Old Testament, but they don't buy anything. They're reminders of the seriousness of unholiness. The writer to Hebrews in chapter 10 says, those sacrifices are an annual reminder of sins. Day after day, every priest stands and performs his religious duties again and again. He offers the same sacrifices, which can never take away sin. But when this priest, Jesus, offered for all time one sacrifice for sins, he sat down at the right hand of God. And since that time, he waits for his enemies to be made his footstool. For by one sacrifice, he is made perfect forever those who are being made whole. Which kind of brings me on to an interesting question. If God's sacrifices aren't transactional and the restorative sacrifice has already been made by Jesus, which we celebrated earlier with breadsticks and grape juice, the traditional way of celebrating. What is the place for sacrifice for us as Christians? Romans 12 says, therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. When we live for God, that's worshipful sacrifice. Not as a transaction, like the pagans thought about it, to get something. Not even for restoration, because Jesus has done it all. But just for love. In view of God's mercy. We love God. We're transformed by his love. We want to live for him. Our attention, our time, our money, our resources, most of all, our hearts. So we've done God is different to the gods they've known. God's ways are different to the ways they've known. God's sacrifices are different to the sacrifices they've known. I want to finish with one thing, one final thought, and that is, what is the key to our faithfulness? What is the key to our long-term steadfastness to God? Because life is not a sprint, it's a marathon. I want to be, if anything, more faithful and more passionate in 10 and 15 and 20 years than I am now. That's the trajectory I want. What is the key to that? And bizarrely, it's not seeing a mountain on fire. You'd think it was. You'd think that having seen all of that, it would have changed them. And after all of that, Moses is up the mountain for 40 days, and the same people who saw that are saying to Aaron, make some gods for us out of gold who will go before us. And you think, what? How have you got from there to there in just 40 days? The key to our faithfulness is our hearts. Proverbs 4 says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. I love that. Everything you do flows. Me and Nick have been following a Bible plan this year. And one of the things I've noticed is when leaders get to the end of their lives, what they say, they've had they often give a kind of a final encouraging speech to the people, and they've got their whole lives to look back and realize what matters and what works and what counts. At the end of his life, Moses says, the Lord your God will circumcise your hearts and the hearts of your descendants, so that you may love him with all your heart and with all your soul and live. At the end of Joshua's life, he says, now throw away the foreign gods and among you, yield your hearts to the Lord, the God of Israel. At the end of his life, Samuel says, be sure to fear the Lord and serve him faithfully with all your heart. Consider what great things he's done for you. Above all else, guard your heart. Everything you do flows from it. God is different to the gods they've known. God's ways are different to the ways they've known. God's sacrifices are different to the sacrifices they've known. And the key to our faithfulness flows from our hearts, because he's worthy